I'm Candace.
And I'm Ripley.
And this is Comicsplaining,
the show where we take a trip to the bingo parlor. You may have seen on our Twitter, we have decided to make up bingo cards for playing, just for the episodes, just to have something a little bit fun. We think we're probably going to refresh them after them, add new stuff that can go in as we discover new tropes.
Yeah, I feel like this isn't the kind of thing that we're gonna do every episode, though, right?
No, I think we're probably gonna, I don't know. God only knows.
Okay.
See how it goes. This is a test. You know, I just like to throw things in on a whim.
Okay, well, by we, you mean mostly you.
Yeah.
But
I decided to do this.
you did make individual bingo cards for us, and then John isn't here, so...
Yeah, it was really rude. No, John's feeling a little bit under the weather. So, it's just gonna be the two of us tonight, which kind of brings down a little bit of the bingo fun.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think
What's
we'll
the
still have a
prize?
fun time. The prize is nothing. You win nothing. Good day, sir.
I don't want to do that, then. I deserve a prize.
Okay, I'll figure something out.
Okay.
Just gotta punt that down the road a little bit.
Uh-huh.
What
That's
happened
a problem for me tomorrow.
Yep, that sounds like a problem for future Ripley.
Now, keeping in mind that I was not here for the last X-Men episode.
Yep, keeping in mind what happened the last X-Men episode. Also keep in mind, audience, that Candace did edit the video version of the episode and has no good
That
reason.
doesn't mean I absorbed the information. They went to go fight the Emperor.
Yep.
I was gonna say the princess's brother, but I don't remember her fucking name.
Lalandra.
Lalandra.
But you're right. It is her brother.
Her brother, the Emperor, they went to go fight him because he wanted to use the Mcron crystal to do something.
Yeah, it wasn't entirely clear. I think just get more power, take over the universe. God knows what his plan
Generic
really was.
supervillain things.
He was pretty much crazy.
Yeah.
So
they went to go fight him, and they had to fight all of the Royal Guard, which included, Gladiator.
Who I kept misnaming.
You kept calling him Guardian.
Yeah.
It's fine.
He's got a stupid name. Fuck him.
So they did that, and then, Jeff was there.
Well, we missed something. They were having some trouble, and the Starjammers came down to save
Oh, that's
the
right.
day.
The Starjammers were there. And then Jeff showed up. Okay, and
Who's
then
Jeff?
Jeff was the guardian of the Mcron crystal.
You got it.
And then they beat Jeff, and then his friend, whose name I don't remember.
No, he had a stupid name. I don't remember it either. The X-Men fought Jeff, kicked Jeff's ass. Another Guardian showed up that was like 1,000 times stronger than Jeff. And if you fought that one, there was going to be another one that was 1,000 times stronger than him.
Right. And something happened, and they got sucked into the crystal.
Yep, Raza threw the Emperor at the crystal, and I guess that did that.
For some reason.
Yeah.
And then they were inside the crystal, and the crystal was showing them visions of their deepest, darkest fears.
Yep.
But Jean broke free, and then, I guess, freed the rest of them?
Well, no, Scott was dealing with his fears, which was that he couldn't close his eyes.
Right.
And he accidentally blasted the orb in the middle of the crystal.
Right. And something happened.
That made the crystal start breaking.
Okay.
So Jean went into the orb.
Okay.
Inside the orb.
She used the power of friendship.
Yeah, she did use the power of friendship to heal the broken lattice of the orb that was inside the crystal that was holding the neutron galaxy, blah, 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 blah,
blah. And at some point, Corsair found out that he was Scott's dad.
Yep, Jean read his mind and then put 2 and 2 together.
Right. So that's a thing now. And then they went home?
Right. They went home. There's only one detail left there.
Lalandra stayed with them.
Yes, because she's exiled until the council sorts shit out.
Right, because she kind of did a coup.
She kind of did a coup. That is true. It's very true, and I think it would be hard for anyone to argue otherwise. So that was the main storyline, but we're also missing stories.
Oh, fuck if I know. Things happened.
Yep, Lalandra was escaping from...
Oh, right.
Justice?
Yeah. Running away from the fact that she did a coup.
Yeah.
And as she was running away, she got mind blasted by Chuck broadcasting the goodwill of the planet Earth, I guess.
Yeah, when they were fighting the Xenox.
And she fell in love with him.
Madly in love with him, just immediately.
Immediately.
Madly being the key word. She was not particularly happy
She was
about
not,
it.
And I don't blame her. And then she just kind of had like a meltdown about it, and then took a shower.
And was like, I feel better.
And then when she got out of the shower, she found out that all of her army had died while she was in the shower.
And or unconscious.
And then she decided to go to Earth to find Chuck.
Yep. And then there was Corsair in the mines.
Right. So we got to find out how Corsair got to space, basically.
Yep.
That he used to be a pilot, and then he got, abducted by the Emperor.
Yep.
Him and his wife, but they got their kids jumped out of the plane, so they didn't get abducted. And then his wife died because the Emperor was creepy.
Yep.
And then he got sent to the mines as a slave.
Yep.
And then the other Starjammers, who were not the Starjammers yet, showed up.
Yep.
There was Catgirl.
Hepzibah was there.
And they saved her.
Yep.
And then
they were gonna eat her.
Right. And then they saved her and decided
to be the Starjammers.
Basically.
Yep. You pretty much got it. So now we've got to pick up on the issue we skipped last time. This is what we got. This is what the people of the 70s got because Dave missed a deadline. And that's going to be X-Men 106 from August of 1977, written by Chris Claremont and Bill Mantlo, penciled by Dave Cockrum and Bob Brown, inked by Tom Sutton, colored by Andy Yankus, and lettered by Joe Rosen.
The Angel is back, and he's come to murder the new X-Men with their own leader's deadly eye blasts.
Very jealous, clearly.
So, that's the whole issue. We don't need to know anything else.
Though Scott could both try to close his eyes or shield them with the arm Warren hasn't grabbed, but
right.
Okay. No, there's nothing I can do.
There's nothing I can possibly do. Oh no.
So this takes place just after the X-Men left through the Stargate. Firelord has arrived mere moments later after getting volleyball spiked into Jersey City by the Phoenix. Luckily, Firelord seems to have forgotten his oath to kill Charles Xavier on behalf of his new friend.
Mm-hmm.
But he's too heated over that fight with Jean, so he's completely forgotten.
Uh-huh.
Despite that look, Charles isn't feeling so good, Mr. Stark, and he clutches his head in pain. Despite finally coming face to face with Princess Lalandra and the temporary easing of his nightmares, with her disappearance, his head is once more in a funk. Misty Knight rushes to his side, and he must really be out of it because he somehow mistakes Misty for Moira McTaggart, despite some rather striking obvious differences between the two.
Right.
He's indeed lost in delusional memory. thinking of Moira's appearance at the mansion quite a while back now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Wearing the ugliest dress ever, Moira administers some sedatives to Charles to help him sleep without nightmares, and the man drifts to sleep as elsewhere in the mansion his X-Men trained in the danger room. Wolverine's having a gas of a time, high kicks and all, in the danger room. He's got his AirPods in, though, and doesn't notice he's about to get flat Stanley'd by a falling girder.
Oh, what?
You don't know Flat Stanley?
No, it was the falling girder
Oh.
that it was wetting.
Okay.
You know, that good old danger room trap.
The falling girder.
Falling I-beam.
Look, I didn't know how widespread Flat Stanley was, or if I should even explain for the audience who may not know.
I also don't know what that is, but I wasn't gonna question it.
Flat Stanley was this kid's book, and when I was in elementary school, everyone had to make a Flat Stanley, which was just like a cutout of a guy, and you'd dress him however he was. I don't remember why he was flat.
Mm-hmm.
I just somehow was under the impression that this was like a widely spread thing, that everybody just made Flat Stanley.
No, I've never heard of that before.
Well, Wolverine's about to get Flat Stanley.
Okay.
Colossus rushes to his friend's defense, knocking him clear to safety as the girder breaks over his steel back. Logan is entirely unappreciative of his teammate's rescue, though, ready to swing on Piotr for, I guess, ruining the fun of being flattened by a girder.
Right.
Not gonna lie, the reasoning there doesn't really track. Guess that's his idea of a fun time. His new idea of a fun time is playing can opener with Colossus. But the proposition is quickly vetoed by Cyclops, who fires a warning blast at Wolverine.
I've already got a couple
What do we
things
got?
to check off. Wolverine is a tough guy for no reason.
Wolverine is a tough guy for no reason.
Hang on, let me mark that off.
Yep, I have that one myself, actually.
Also, and we haven't quite gotten to there yet, it's the next panel, Wolverine picks an asinine fight with Cyclops.
Yep, do I have that one? But I don't have that one, so you've got an extra one on me. Wolfie's just as willing to turn his aggression on Scott, though, and the two quickly set to bickering, with Wolverine fed up with how hard Psyche's been riding them in training. Banshee, who's quickly turning out to be kind of the secondary field leader of the X-Men, further diffuses the situation, pointing out that Scott is riding him a little hard. And Scott has to do some work adjusting to the new team, too. It's a different kind of situation. He's not going to get them to get along just by forcing them through routines. They've got to be their own team. He's got to release some of the guilt for Thunderbird to let them come together, which Scott confesses to, revealing a little bit of his shock at having lost a man. Wolverine needles him a bit for it, but Storm comes to Summer's defense. Scott's the leader. If Logan's going to start snarking about how people need to leave, he knows where the door is. Somehow from behind the entire group, which doesn't make any sense, another voice suggests that the lot of them get out. Angel is back, clad in his old duds, much beefier after a while on tea, and apparently having taken up Bobby's torch of anger at the newcomers.
I would like to note he is hovering in midair, apparently, but his wings are not moving.
I'm guessing he's just flapping. Well, there's a little bit of movement. He might be just flapping his wings. He's flapping his wings.
That would not work. That would not work.
It's fine, it's superheroes. Scott's entirely confused, as right now Warren should be halfway across the country with the champions and not taking a nostalgia trip to high school in his varsity jacket. Warren gets snotty about Psyche's willingness to move on, to which I might point Angel is the one who chose to leave, but whatever, I guess. He continues berating the new X-Men, comparing them to a creature feature, which even beyond being, regularly shitty is, exponentially shitty, because think about, Kurt, who he's clearly referring to, is roughly 1/5 of the new X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
So if the creature feature thing is beyond him, what other aspects of the team would make them, the whole team, a creature feature? Pretty gross. Anyway, Scott comes to his team's defense, asking what the hell's gotten into him, to which Warren responds, "People change, some of them for the worse," which comes off very try-hard, edgy teen.
Hey, You know what? I know exactly what happened. He got hit with radiation and turned evil again.
Oh my god, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense.
Yeah. We've seen this before. We know.
He shoots Scott off into the air where he is snatched by the britches by a newly nared beast, who also does not approve of Scott's choices with regard to the new X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt, squinting at Hanks, notices the sudden debeastification of Beast, to which Bobby's like, hey, don't you talk about my buddy like that! Aurora has totally had it with all of this. These guys just left on, at least polite terms just a few weeks ago, and Jean, now also part of the Varsity Jacket Brigade, is like, oh my god, we're so not friends. Keep your name out of my mouth. We're going back to being the X-Men. Thank you very much. Get lost.
Her boobs are defying gravity.
Her boobs are terrifying. This is a push-up bra for the ages.
Yeah.
Hank finally drops Scott, landing considerably more gracefully on the floor next to him as well. The rest of the X-Men edge towards scrapping, with Nightcrawler holding back Logan as he threatens to take up making ice sculptures as a hobby.
Mm.
Hank then knocks Kurt flat, taunting to let Wolverine fight his own battles. Scott, for the second time this issue, has to break up a fight, but this time is even less successful at it, as Angel once more picks him up by the back of the collar, flying off into the air with Cyclops once more.
You know, I know for a fact that you put We Fight Our Doubles as a thing on here, but mine doesn't have it.
Yep, yours doesn't have it, though it is on here. I actually do have that. I have X-Men v X-Men.
There you go.
Once at a sufficient height, Warren drops the leader man, ready to let him splatter on the floor. Banshee catches Psyche, going to set him down with the fight now started in earnest. Marvel Girl turns the Danger Room's machinery on Aurora, shooting lasers at her, which I guess Storm can deflect with wind. Sure.
Sure, that's how lasers work.
That's exactly how lasers work. I say that's all the time.
Also, as usual, the token women have to fight each other.
Indeed. It's rude to have the menfolk fighting the women when we can avoid it.
Right.
God, there was some Spider-Man shit where he'd say fucking do-bro shit like that, but I would almost accept that from fucking Peter. How many stupid college-age folk we know? What the fuck is going on with Jeannie's boobs?
That's what I was wondering. Jean's boobs got worse.
Oh, they did. I'm not liking this take on the Wonder Bra.
It's really bad.
Aurora, thinking on her recent friendship with Marvel Girl, quickly comes to the astute observation that something's fishy here because we're doing the same fucking issue again.
No shit.
Terrible backup story choice. Wolverine also realizes Bobby isn't ticking his senses in the same way he was a few weeks back either. Apparently he had a real struggle thinking this one up, as he must have momentarily stopped to process as Bobby's got him frozen solid in a block of ice, with only his arm free. Logan claws at Bobby's ice slide above him, knocking Iceman to the floor, and I guess that somehow also totally freed him because he's now just free.
How?
I don't understand. Maybe he flexed and shattered it once he got a little bit of a hole. Who fucking knows?
Also, the length of his claws varies from panel to panel.
Yeah, it does. Sometimes they're way too long to work.
Look at how long they are in this panel. That's a rake.
That's longer than his forearms,
right.
Which is not gonna
absurd.
work. That's not how anything works. Banshee then decides he's gonna go fight Angel, while Scott bemoans the X-Men all fighting the X-Men one-on-one while the X-Men fight as a team. Makes perfect sense. Because what a great job the X-Men have been doing at that. Angel threw Scott to Hank once. Great work. Teamwork. Great job. Teamwork. Go team.
Fantastic.
Evidence of such being, apparently, that Banshee flies straight into Angel's trap, which is Angel karate chopping him in full view of Banshee as he flew at him.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking dastardly, Warren, you disgraceful cur. Are there no depths to which you won't sink? The trap apparently did Jack diddly, as Sean is able to turn around and scream at Angel's face with little difficulty. Warren, to Scott's distress, falls groundward, unresponsive. But he manages to catch himself before hitting the ground, taunting Scott for caring. Cyclops is confused about his friend's quick recovery until Angel pins him once more in a hammerlock, explaining that he put earplugs in, which is how he's talking to him now. Has he been shouting much louder than everyone else this entire fight? So that's a count of 3 times Warren has grabbed hold of Scott this issue without Scott getting wise to his go-to tactic.
Right.
That's our brilliant tactician here, folks. Colossus rushes to Cyclops' defense, but with his hold, Wingboy pulls Scott's visor off his eyes, holding his beams fixed on Piotr. To do so, though, Warren had to shift his grip, and that allowed Scott to elbow backwards and then kind of twist to throw his once teammate into the path of his beams, explaining that their attacker is an imposter. That blast should have knocked Warren out from the vibrations alone. Nightcrawler and Beast face off standing on the wall. Hank then springs at Kurt, who is too surprised to teleport out of McCoy's path. He then throws him once more groundward, pinching a nerve in his neck and leaving Kurt unable to teleport. We're letting him be super useful in this fight, much like Colossus. Oh wait, Colossus has been super useful, and yet here he is, now again, to catch his fuzzy blue friend. Meanwhile, Cyclops Velmas his way across the floor, searching for his glasses, thinking about his hit, or rather lack of hit, on Angel, as the blast seemed to go right through the winged mutant. Apparently not too hurt anymore, Kurt's immediately ready for a fastball special as soon as Piotr catches him, yeeting him once more back at the Beast. Kurt then latches onto the Beast, and we jarringly shift to a wide shot showing the entire battle. Scott, newly revisored, calls Angel out as being a phony, but fake Warren's like, so what, we can still hurt you and you don't even know who's doing this, so you guys are eventually fucked. But gasp! From the doorway crawls Charles Xavier, shouting that he can stop this! Straining against Moira's sedatives, Xavier thinks the illusory X-Men out of existence, who apparently he created. But even as the battle ends, sinister laughter fills the danger room, as an image of the battle's true mastermind is revealed above the X-Men. It's green Charles Xavier in a Dracula cape!
I was just thinking I'm not completely following this, but I guess there's not a lot. It's not very high concept, is it?
No!
Oh boy.
How spooky. Scott blasts Evil Chuck, who vanishes into thin air, reappearing elsewhere in the danger room, cackling evilly about how Scott can't hit someone who isn't even there. Even knowing what just happened, no one turns to Xavier to be like, hey, think this bitch away too, please?
Please?
Instead, it's off to the races, as Logan, having just watched that entire thing with Scott, comes away with the conclusion that he helpfully shouts that, I can see ya, and what the Wolverine can see, he can cut.
Okay.
Charles then opens... Evil Charles, mind you. Evil Charles then opens a chasm in the floor in front of Logan, his momentum carrying him over the edge. Though yet again, Colossus is here to the rescue.
Colossus MVP of this issue.
For sure. That's his role this issue, nannying over the team. Logan then helpfully explains to us what an illusion is, because Scott apparently also didn't teach the X-Men how to fight Mastermind either.
What the fuck?
Charles also doesn't bother to think of Xavier away, and then again explains that if you die in the dream, you die in real life. This is the longest fucking comic book in history.
God.
While Professor X doesn't think evil Professor X away, he does think up good fake X-Men to beat evil Charles up.
Why?
They then all vanish, and as Memory Charles defeats evil Charles, real Charles wakes up on the roof of Jean's apartment, helpfully explaining that the reason he's been going crazy all this time wasn't his mental link with Lilandra, but instead him fighting off his evil side.
What the fuck?
I'm fucking furious, man. We've already done this plot. We did this plot less than 10 issues ago. And while it was decently well executed that time, it was still a fairly tired trope even then. And it redoes it with all the grace of a sledgehammer. It's worse in every way. The art's worse, the writing's worse, the inking's worse. Half the time we're back fighting in the empty, featureless void.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, we do it in a way that actively undermines the better of the two issues. Because by having the X-Men have to figure out they're not fighting the original X-Men right before they do the same thing, it makes them seem so fucking smooth-brained later on when they're not able to fucking pick up on the thing with the X-Sentinels. I regard this issue with emotions closest described as contempt, loathing, and disgust. 1 fucking star. I hate this. I hate this so much.
Well, in light of that, I'm obviously going to give this a full 5. It's really good.
Let's see what I got so far.
I only got 2 things. This wasn't a good issue for Bingo because nothing happened.
No, it wasn't. It was a bad one. Nope. I don't have anything either. Okay, we've got 2. We've each got 2. Which one did you get?
Wolverine is a tough guy for no reason, and Wolverine picks a fight with Cyclops.
I've got X-Men fight the X-Men, and Wolverine's a tough guy for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
For our second issue tonight, we have...
Oh, boy.
Yep. We have X-Men 109 from February of 1978. Written by Chris Claremont, penciled by John Byrne, inked by Terry Austin, colored by Andy Yankus, and lettered by Joe Rosen. We're going to be using the classic X-Men version of the comic, as we do wherever we can, so we're going to be featuring some pages with pencils by Kieran Dwyer, colors by Petra Scatesi, and letters by Ken Lopez. Kieran Dwyer's a new name for us, so what's up with him? Well, for one, his one-time stepdad was John Byrne, so we've got the usual connections going on here.
Mm-hmm.
For another thing, once upon a time he got sued by Starbucks for parodying their logo in a comic. The courts eventually decided that it was free speech, but also that Kieran Dwyer could not do it again.
Oh.
So that's whatever, but I'm going to show it here because fuck Starbucks.
Yeah.
After the grand adventure the X-Men had been on, home must seem like a pretty sweet relief. Though it's not home for all of them. For Lilandra, it's somewhere entirely new.
Logan is still wearing that other guy's outfit.
Yeah, Logan's still wearing that guy's clothes, which I guess makes sense. He is still naked, so...
Well, he's not.
Oh my god, you're right. He is not. He just put on new clothes. Where did he get the new clothes? Whatever. While Wolverine heads off to change into some clothes that are actually his, Moira tells Kurt off for bamfing inside the house on account of the resulting smell of brimstone. But luckily for Kurt, Sean Cassidy comes in with the save, snagging his lovely lady by the arm for a smooch. Home for Storm is her attic loft, a veritable garden much in need of her tender, loving care. At Aurora's command, a storm cloud opens up into the attic, giving her plants a nice drink of water.
That's gonna be hell on the floors.
I know. I keep thinking that every time she does that, like, Charles, surely you've done something for this, right? Or else you're gonna have so many problems down the line.
Oh, yeah.
And since no one's been naked yet, Storm strips down to take a nice shower herself.
Uh-huh.
So I guess we can cross off someone is naked. Someone is naked.
Of course, it's Aurora.
Of course it is. And also, Chris is weird about Aurora.
I don't have that one.
I do. Alright, let's see. Fully enjoying herself, a small boom of thunder follows. Something that doesn't evade the notice of John Gray down in the living room, faced with the overwhelming thought of getting answers on exactly what the fuck is going on with his daughter.
Yeah.
Jean, sitting alongside Scott on the couch, explains to Scott why it is they seem freaked out about it, before thinking back to a few small details we didn't wrap up back at the M'Kron Crystal before the X-Men's departure, explaining Lilandra's exile on Earth while the Council get the legalities of her coronation sorted out. So too wraps up another thread as Corsair begs Jean not to reveal his identity to Scott, before quickly beaming off away to go pick up some milk at the corner store. Off to the Starjammer.
Going to pick up some scratchers.
You gotta pick up a pack of cigarettes.
With his cat girl.
Aurora, having overheard the exchange, doesn't exactly approve of Jean's agreement, pointing out how hurt Scott would be if he ever learned of the deception. But an exhausted Jane isn't swayed, having given her word to Chris. Jane's thoughts are forced back to the present when her dad speaks, asking for a word. The time for the talk finally arrived. Scott offers to come along, but Jane waves him off. Jane needs to talk with her parents, but they're not exactly the only ones. Still, Scott also needs to have a word with his brother, only to be informed by Moira that Alex gave him the Irish exit, departing with Lorna to go help Jamie Madrox put her lab back in order. Elsewhere, a man sits before a computer console in a darkened room, receiving a status update.
Hang on. So did we ever confirm that Havoc and Polaris were under some kind of mind control?
Yeah, they fixed him out. Charles freed them from their mind control, so they're good now.
All right. Just checking because I don't remember that ever coming up.
Yeah, I skimmed over that, but yeah, no. Alex and Lorna are fine now, but they're also in Scotland and didn't bother to say goodbye.
Cool.
Elsewhere, a man sits before a computer console in a darkened room, receiving a status update as he reviews mission files on Wolverine and the adamantium skeleton and healing factor that make him nigh invulnerable. Once upon a time, the man had Logan on track to be the team leader of Canada's Alpha Flight, but he burned that bridge when he went AWOL on the Canadian military. Back at the mansion, Lalandra peers out a window, eyes fixed on the birds as they soar through the sky. It's this sort of thing she loves, taking in new worlds, new species and civilizations. Though by her technological standards, even the luxury of Charles's vast mansion is a bit rustic. After a look in the mirror, though, a shower is top of the list for Lalandra. She activates it, immediately caught off guard at the blast of water rather than the refreshing sonic caress she'd expected. Soaking wet, the alien princess takes a moment to try to collect herself. She's not left to do it herself, though, as Charles shortly rolls up with extra towels in tow, having felt her distress. After their shared mental link, the pair are already familiar to the point that there's not much in the way of chemistry left to develop, but there is history. Lalandra knows so much of her new beau's past, but there's been time that's passed since then. And as their lips meet, Charles opens his mind to fill her in on his recent past.
Where are her ears?
I don't know, but she's a bird alien, so it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. I'm assuming there's also a much longer makeout sesh where Lalandra explains her entire life story, too. Kurt's reaction to his relaxation time is to live it up. He's quickly on the phone, fixing up plans to go see Star Wars again with that flight attendant from back in New York. He's insatiable. Piotr's first move is to attempt to write a letter back home to his parents, but he finds himself struggling for words, never much of a letter writer. His thoughts dwell on home, though. He's rescued from his momentary homesickness when Kurt bamfs into his room, attempting to wrangle him into a double date. But unfortunately, Piotr has already made prior plans for a picnic with Moira and Sean. He's third-wheeling it, I guess. Kurt then bamfs back away, this time off to the living room, where he finds another low mood, as Scott slouches in a chair, watching out the window where Jean speaks with her parents, explaining everything. Kurt notices how hard the pair take it, and Scott reacts as if it's obvious, despite Jane also having had to explain it to him. Fake it till you make it, buddy. Kurt reacts to Scott's dismissal by trying to draw him out of his shell a little more, reminding him that he's not the only one who's had it hard, and that if he keeps self-sabotaging by dwelling on everything he feels is going wrong, he's gonna end up pushing those he loves away. Before they continue their discussion, though, Sean and Moira enter the living room, readying up their crew for the picnic. Kurt has his date, and Scott declines the invitation, so with Aurora and Piotr ready, it seems that it's all aboard that's coming aboard. Until Wolverine pipes up that he's coming along, too.
Sorry, they drew Moira's nipple.
They did indeed. That was a choice. A choice was made. Moira's canonical hard nipples.
It's an important detail.
Very important. Then Wolverine's like, I'm coming too. It kind of comes to us as something of a surprise to Moira. I mean, the bunch hadn't even bothered to ask the usually antisocial Canadian. And Logan explains that he doesn't really want a picnic, but he does need a lift because he wants to go do some hunting. Aurora is horrified at the thought of sport hunting, but Wolverine's like, okay, not that it's any of your business, but I don't hunt to kill. Now see, what he does is he sneaks up on a deer and then touches it. That's one of my favorite things about him. Aurora apologizes for having misjudged him, but Logan's like, what else is new? Meanwhile, Star Wars fever has swept the globe to the extent that the Canadian military looked at those rebels with the salad bowls on their head and were like, slap a maple leaf on it and you've got yourself a deal, eh?
This guy also, his armband says shield, even though it's Canadian. Don't know what's going on with that.
There's a maple shield. Well, they're all set to drop in on their errant Weapon X and bring him back home. A short journey away from the mansion, and Logan has finally found himself at home in the woods. Indeed, he has found a deer, a young doe. He's been on her tail for over an hour, with the doe none the wiser. Suddenly, something alarms the deer, and she bolts just before James McDonald Hudson, Weapon Alpha, bursts out from under the ground.
Canada man.
I have questions. How did he get underground? Are you telling me he tunneled under the earth to get the drop on Logan? Did he just burst through some outcropping we can't see? Unclear.
I think he just tunneled under there and buried himself and waited for Logan to get there.
That's, I think, the best option, and I'm gonna go with that. That's my new assumption. Jimmy Boy here has been sent on a mission to wrangle Wolverine back north of the border, and he's not gonna take no for an answer. Logan, though, has no intention of going back without a fight, and so if it's a fight Jimmy wants, it's a fight he'll get. Wolverine might be picking another fight he can't win, though, as his claws only meet the energy shields of Weapon Alpha's suit, and what's more, the suit being the ultimate product of Canadian technology, it also means old MacDonald can fly now. Okay. E-I-E-I-O. Back at the picnic, not much snacking seems to be going on. Mostly it's just a lot of hanging out in bathing suits. Sean and Moira frolic in the water like a couple of kids, while Aurora and Piotr lay out on the picnic blanket, flirting as he tells her of home. Again, though, Rasputin's words fail him, instead offering to take her there someday. Our boy is smooth. Their flirtations are rudely interrupted by a flying Wolverine splintering the trunk of a nearby tree. Piotr moves to intercept the other angry Canadian as he follows his quarry, warning him off because if he wants to get to Wolverine, Weapon Alpha's gonna have to go through him first. Mac takes him up on his offer, fully willing to swing on some Russian civvy, power suit and all, if it means bringing Wolvie in. But old Jim Jam's got a little more on his hands than he thought, as before his eyes, Piotr's rippling muscles ripple instead into gleaming belted steel. And with one haymaker, this time it's Alpha's turn to go slamming into some trees. James picks himself out of the debris, still fighting fit and confident that he can handle Colossus. But it's not just Piotr he has to worry about. Aurora also stands guard in front of Wolverine, like quite literally. And despite Logan's weak protests that he wants to fight Jimmy, she hits Weapon Alpha with a jolt of lightning. Apparently he can take the hit, though, and fires off his own blast at Piotr. I guess he expected it to hit despite his very shiny skin, but what it instead does is reflect off of one gleaming peck and bounce off to strike Moira in the side of the head.
Oh shit. The one normie.
The one normie. Moira falls unconscious into the water. Luckily her man dives in after her, scooping her out of the water before she can inhale any. She's alive, but she's still unconscious, and she's got a nasty burn on her forehead to boot. And that just pushes Cassidy absolutely over the fucking edge. He screams his way across the clearing at Hudson with such intensity that Jimmy flees the scene, popping out of existence just as Banshee and Storm catch up with him. Though he does apparently recognize Banshee from Interpol flyers. I'm not sure if that's flyers from his days of criming or his days as being an Interpol agent, which is something that you can do. After summoning up a Storm to ensure that he isn't merely invisible, the two of them head back to the lake after Aurora spots Banshee signaling to them down below. When they touch down, Wolverine explains that he and Weapon Alpha have history, once being as close as brothers, and they probably haven't heard the end of him. And Weapon Alpha, he reconnects with Earth's rotation, heart-heavy with the potential consequences for his lack of care. After a long debrief on his failed mission, Hudson returns home with a heavy heart, relying on his wife Heather for a hug to hold him together while he breaks down in tears under the weight of his responsibilities to Alpha Flight.
Uh-huh.
That's how we want to rate that.
Wow, I feel so bad for him.
Yeah, it's so sad.
2.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Wasn't great. Didn't love it.
I liked a lot of the little character details we got, but frankly not enough to make up for... It kind of felt disjointed, you know? Mm-hmm. There was a lot of good stuff in there, but it was all kind of disjointed. Mm-hmm. It bounced around a lot, and we didn't get a whole lot of understanding as to what the fuck Jimmy's deal is.
And I didn't get a bingo, which is the ultimate crime.
Let me take a look at it. I think I can cross off the Greater Westchester Polycule as added again.
In what sense?
Well, I mean...
Because if you can do that, then I can do that too.
Well, we got Aurora both, like, you're gonna have to go through him standing in front of him, which is very relationship-coded in the sense of the X-Men.
Alright.
And flirting with Piotr.
Alright, you got me there.
Did Wolverine refer to himself in the third person?
I think so.
I think so, too.
He did well, if he didn't in this issue, he did in the last issue.
We can't really say a secret family member is revealed because Corsair was priorly revealed.
Mm-hmm. I put Moira drops a revelation because Alex and Lorna went to Scotland.
You know, that's a good one. That's a good one.
And I also checked off speaking a foreign language because Kurt was speaking German.
He was.
And I also checked off an ill-fated vacation.
You know, I think it counts. I think we'll count it. Yeah, I think that's all I got. I haven't got one yet.
What do you think about someone explains their entire backstory? Because Alondra did it, or maybe Chuck did it off screen.
You know, I think we can do that. I think it's a little bit of a stretch, but it's a fair stretch. You can make a case for it.
Okay, let me think. Reoccurring character introduction.
Who was introduced? Oh, Jimbo.
Yep. And his wife, actually.
Yeah, and Heather, actually.
I don't think it was a misunderstanding fight. I think they all understood what was happening.
Yeah.
More or less.
Apart from the people who didn't know what was happening, but it wasn't like a misunderstanding.
Right.
I think that's where we stand right now on mine.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Well, we've got one more story, so we may get a bingo yet.
Oh, shit.
Closing us out tonight, we have the B story from Classic X-Men 16, written by Chris Claremont, penciled and inked by John Bolton, colored by Glynis Wein, and lettered by Tom Orzechowski. A masked and helmeted biker rides through the hills along the border between the Irish Republic and Northern Ireland, police hot on their tail. It seems the police in this area must be on a real crackdown, as just a ways down the road, Sean Cassidy, too, is being hassled by the cops, suspicious of his presence here, despite the fact that he was doing nothing wrong and just came up to take in a concert. But the cops hassle him nonetheless, suspecting him of being involved with all the infighting of the Troubles. Sergeant McClanahan then decides to bring Sean in, despite any proof that he was involved in anything. The other officer points out as much, but McClanahan doesn't particularly care. Their argument is interrupted by the biker from earlier tearing down the road. They run the two cops off, stopping just long enough to let Banshee hop on before speeding off once more. The cops still in hot pursuit, now including Constable Sandy and McClanahan. It's a thrilling chase, and just as the cops catch up, the biker instead cuts down a hill. When they try to follow, the terrain is too much for their cars. First one, then the other, leaving only the sergeant's car still in pursuit. The biker makes it south across the border, but a furious McClanahan won't stop the chase. With the catch slipping out of his fingers, McClanahan draws his gun, drawing a bead on the tire and firing. He must be a damn good shot under the circumstances, because in one shot he blows out the tire.
Wow.
The mysterious biker loses control, plunging over a cliff towards the sea below, right along with their passenger. Sean holds on tight, and to McClanahan's horrified eyes, it's not horrified that they fell, he's horrified that he sees Sean scream out over the bay away to safety, because he's a fucking dick.
Yep.
Sean doesn't stop screaming until he gets to Cassidy Keep, finally setting the biker down. She's furious with him over the loss of her bike, which is somehow Sean's fault, despite the fact that she was already being chased by the fucking cops.
Right.
Cassidy then points out that he just saved her life, and that does soften her as adrenaline begins to fade down, and she realizes she just kind of vented her frustration onto him. She's honestly really laid back about Sean's mutation, happy to follow him inside for a midnight snack.
Cool.
However, as it's the kind of hour that it would be appropriate, the screaming was kind of a rude wake-up call for a very bedheaded Tom Cassidy, who emerges to kiss the hand of a young Maeve Rourke.
Cool biker babe. I love her.
She's cool. Sean feels immediately frustrated by Tom moving in on the biker girl he already had a flame for, worrying that he can't hope to win her over compared to his debonair cousin. Which, debonair was not the impression I got off of Tom before this, but okay. He flies Maeve home, dropping her off at the entrance to her dorm. Maeve rightly identifies him as some kind of mutant, but also agrees to see him again, parting with a kiss. They're not exclusive, though, and Tom hasn't given up on Maeve either. Both Cassidys taking her out on dates. And she can't make up her mind, but it's eventually Sean that she asks to take her to the university ball. And so he suits up in his best brown bell-bottom tuxedo.
Jesus.
Because I guess the store was out of powder blue.
Right.
Riding his own motorcycle, Sean heads towards the university, but in his ebullience, he doesn't notice the car pulling up behind him. It's Sergeant Damien McClanahan, back for vengeance.
That bastard.
And he rides Sean off the road. This man is just bound and determined for vehicular homicide.
Well, all cops are bastards, so...
A short while later, Sean staggers through the door of Cassidy Keep, suit tattered and bleeding from the head. Though it's not entirely clear where he's bleeding from, that really changes from shot to shot. This is not very well colored. Tom and the housekeeper quickly bundle Sean away to his bed, but Sean asks Tom to take Maeve in his place. Tom agrees, surprising Maeve without a call. She's a bit let down, and I suppose there's the answer to her heart. But the pair have a nice evening. She does have feelings for Tom, but he can feel the hesitation. Finally, Tom broaches the subject. When Maeve claims that she feels equally as strong for the cousins, Tom calls her out on it, to which Maeve points out that which of the two of them is here right now.
He didn't tell her why?
Hang on. In a very solid move, though, he finally does come clean, confessing what prevented Sean from coming and why he held the truth back.
Okay.
And he asks Maeve if she hates him, but she doesn't at all. If anything, she only considers him a better friend for telling the truth, though she does walk away, leaving Black Tom alone on the dance floor. And how do we want to rank our last issue of the night?
It was kind of boring.
Yeah?
So,
I'm at a 3.
Yeah, 3. Bland.
Rather, yeah. Let's see, what do we have? Did we get anything? I feel like we're not going to get a bingo.
I didn't get anything from that.
No, Sean wasn't even an Irish stereotype this time.
No.
In the issue in Ireland.
Right.
Okay, no one got a bingo this time. We're going to have to do it again. But that is what we've got tonight. If you want to join in on the bingo card fun, join us over on Discord because it gave me 30 of these bingo cards for free. So
yeah.
We can get you bingo cards to play along at home.
We should clarify our holiday posting schedule.
That's true. We're not going to be doing one next week.
The next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and we're not going to be doing one the first week of 2023.
So next 2 weeks, no episode.
Then we should be back on schedule, I think.
We are putting out another bonus episode on Patreon.
Yep, our holiday bonus-ode is coming out this week. It should actually be out by the time this is out, so
yeah, hopefully.
Join us over on Patreon if you want to get a piece of that.
Yeah.
If you want to support the show otherwise, you could also throw us a couple bucks on coffee. Christ. If you want to see Weapon Alpha burst through the ground to give us your own conclusions on how the hell that happened, join us over on YouTube, where we put out a video version of the show every week. Kind of just accompanied by clips of the various things going on in the comic. shoot us an email over at comicsplaining@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on social media. For the moment, that social media is Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, pending if we decide to do anything else, / if we can be asked to figure out another social media site.
I barely post on the ones we have.
Yeah. Anyway, rate and review us on your podcatcher of choice. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, all the usual. All that said, we're going to be back with you in the new year with Thor, and we look forward to talking to you then. Bye!
Bye!